Hey kids, so we are back to modules. It's been a while, and we are now stuck in this topic, which is meeting present and emerging strategic human resources challenges. Okay, whether in a good economic times or challenging ones, companies must always compete for talent. That is because talents are a way to achieve and sustain a competitive advantage. Now, we all know or familiar with how workforce should be treated as an asset rather than a liability on the point of view of the company. Now, companies that are capable and effective at attracting, retaining, and motivating best employees are more likely to succeed. Now, this module is an overview of the challenges that organizations and human resources managers face in an economic environment. In this topic, we will also define the core human resources concepts and identify current issues. Now, we'll begin to see that human resource management is a growing and dynamic field that is critical to the strategic partnership initiatives within company. Now, the learning objectives of this module are the following. First, explain how a firm's human resources influence its performance. Formulate and implement HR strategies that can help the firm achieve a sustained competitive advantage. Describe how firms can use HR initiatives to cope with the workplace changes and trends such as more diverse workforce, the global economy, downsizing, and new legislations. And then it also aimed at this to distinguish between the role of the HR department and the role of the firm's managers in utilizing human resources effectively. It also aimed at identifying HR strategies that fit corporate and business unit strategies. And the last is indicate HR best practices associated with high performing firms. Okay. So there are many different types of employees, and they all play different roles in the organization. So managers are people in charge of others and who are responsible for the timely and correct execution of actions that promote the unit's successful performance. We use the term unit broadly. It may refer to a work, a team, department, business unit, division, or even a corporation. So I think that you have a very clear and broad understanding of what a manager is. That's why you are studying, you are in human resource management major because you wanted to become a manager as well. Ba? So there are various kinds or types of managers. First one is line employees. Various types of employees. So the first one is line employees. When we say line employees, they are directly involved in producing the company's goods or delivering its services. In other words, line employees are directly in the front lines of the organization. So this is what we call the frontliners, such as for example in a hotel, the frontliners are kanang mga attending kanabang diha asa clerk something. Oh, those are what we call line employees. Staff employees, on the other hand, are those who support the line function. For example, HR departments are considered as staff employees because they are the one who supports the line function. Senior employees are those who have been with the company longer and have more responsibility than junior employees. Now, in contrast, junior employees are those who have been in the company for a shorter period and has a lesser responsibility. When we say exempt employees, now sometimes they are called salaried employees. They are those who do not receive extra pay for overtime work beyond technically by law, so beyond 40 hours per week. And last is non-exempt employees are those who receive overtime compensation. Okay, so you have now a clear idea of the different types of employees. So for your first assignment, provide at least 3 examples of each of the categories of employees or types of employees identified, no, kaning line, staff, senior, junior, exempt, and non-exempt. And then you have to explain why they belong to such. So technically your first assignment is to provide at least 3 examples of each of the types of employees that is discussed recently, and then you have to explain why they belong to such. Okay? Okay, in this course, we'll be learning about how people work within organizations. Now, we all know that HRM or human resource management is always in connection or is associated with people working in an organization. We will also use the term human resources, which denotes people as an organizational resources. Now, when we say human resource strategy, now it refers to a firm's deliberate use of human resources to help it gain or maintain an edge against competitors in the market. So when we say deliberate, that means it is intended. No, that's why you advertise, and then you strain on the number of applicants. You conduct interviews in order to arrive at the best candidate for the position. There is no such thing as it happens by accident. No, oh, I was employed because it is an accident. No, there's no such thing as that, except for under the table management, which is very much prevalent nowadays. No, the purpose of the word deliberate is that HR managers are trying to scout what we call that, candidates that best fit the work. Kanang di ka mo hire og di katigo. Mo hire kag secretary, di katigo mo himog minutes of the meeting. So what's the purpose of hiring a secretary? Diba? Okay, so human resources strategy is about looking at the whole picture of an organization's strategy and how people are coordinated to help an organization either maintain or gain a competitive advantage in the workplace. So when we say human resources strategy, it denotes looking at the bigger picture and identifying how could your employees, your workforce can help in order to either achieve, kung wa pa na-achieve ang competitive advantage, or maintain if it already is. Diba? Kung nana ang competitive advantage, you have to maintain it in order to sustain in the market. So yun ang competitive advantage. Basin pag sige akong storya diri competitive advantage, nag star na din na inyong mga naong diha ka mo kasabot og competitive advantage. No, for those who are under me in principles of management, now we all know that price is the primary area of competition among businesses. So mo na siya ang pinaka heart sa competition, kanang presyo sa imong baligya or services offered. But there are organizations that cannot play with the price war. kay play sila, malkansi na sila because of the raw materials, with the operating cost, and every expenses that are incurred in producing that particular goods or services. So the best um, way to gain competitive advantage is to go back to other aspects that you can develop in order to deliver value and satisfaction to your consumers. Okay, so that is what human resources strategy is all about. It's like delineating, how a workforce, the employees, could help fill in the blanks in order to achieve or maintain a competitive advantage. Needless to say, it is very important for an organization to obtain reliable, effective, and loyal employees. Now, this is very sayon isulti, but very hard to maintain. Reliable, kay kita ra madugay empleyado no, ka magkabuang, magkatiguang, magkabuang. Effective. Majuras pilmero, murag relasyon ba, murag uyab, may lang gid sa pilmero. Di kadugayan wa na, nga. And loyal. Diyos ko, di na alam kong storya. My God. Kairita. Okay? And human resources strategy can be a part of making that happen. So human resources strategies, we can be safe to say that human resources strategy is a very vital ingredient, no, in achieving or arriving at this or maintaining at this reliable, effective, and loyal employees. So every organization should have a human resources strategy. Di ra puro sige sana kanang hire og kuan, mayroon kag mayon ang employee, what are your plans for me? Nana mo ko'y master's degree, nana ko'y doctor's degree, I have different trainings attended, I even have international trainings attended. What are your plans for me? Mayon ng HR, I don't know, let's go with the flow. No, that is a very wrong move for the HR. You should always have human resources strategy. How do you fit in those employees that are empowered? No? Okay? Time check. Okay. Key HR challenges. So now let's go to the challenges that every HR managers. So for those who are taking up majors in human resource management, so just be a little bit of keen eye on details about these key HR challenges. This is very makatotohanan, charot. Tagalog Okay. So organizations today must be aware of all dimensional forces that affect the organizations and its strategy. So we all know that you do not live alone. You're not the only one. You're not the only institution. You're not the only business that exists in the market. You always have a competition because as we all know, business is a gamble and najudaghang sugarol dinhing dapita. Diba? So, as a vigilant institution, you have to be aware of all dimensional. When we say all dimensional, not just the left, the right, but also the back and the forth. Kay basig na mo try door ni mo, dunggabo na imong likod. Oh, there you go. Declare kag bankruptcy because your best friend gikawat ang imong your company. Okay? So okay, so there are three major categories in HR challenges, and these are the environment, of course, the organization itself, and of course the individual. Now let's start with the environment. Now, these are forces external to the organization that affects its performance but are beyond the control of the management. When we say external, it pertains to outside resources. That's why you do not have control over it. So, mo na but pasabot sa environment. No? These forces include globalization, natural disasters, skills shortages, technological changes, and workforce diversity, to name a few. Human resources managers must be aware of these challenges and work with the organization while adapting to changes that occur rapidly and increasingly. But how do you know about the changes in the environment? So, sa mga pagkahibaw nga, naala day changes sa environment. Naala makagumawas. Naala makag sumuroy-suroy sa gawas. Na, ay sabi, mag-check sa environment. O, unsa na ning diyang, unsa na label nila sa environment. How are you going to do that? I mean, how are you going to be updated with what's going on in the environment? No? Of course, first thing first, you have to be vigilant. When we say vigilant, so na vigilant sa Bisaya? Abtik. Kana bang murag lihiro kay ka sa kinabuhi sa uban, charot. Vigilant kay ka. Vigilant kay ka with what is happening with the environment. Sa environment. Therefore, in layman's term, being vigilant is being chismosa. Okay? Master kay ana, we have all the skills. Mas lihiro mas kahibaw patas kinabuhi sa uban, no? 'Di ba? So, instead of using your skills in being a chismosa over the life of the others, nga di man po ka gisweldoan, di po ka madato, why don't you just be vigilant on what's going on in the environment that might affect your job, your finances, sumo na gamita imong pagka-chismosa in a positive way. Hala, pag sigig pamanii dihagkin sa gilantan karo isumbong sa RHU kay arong di mo daghaning COVID because I'm so tired of this thing. Kapoy sig himog PowerPoint, kapoy sig record. Just ko, oh my God. Anyways, someone na, be vigilant. Okay? Manigiingon nga, huwag kang tutulog-tulog sa pansitan kay mata nimo pansit na naman hibilin. Wa na subak. Ikaw lagi, ganahan po ka mo kaog pansit. Anyway, that's your choice. Bitaw. Okay, so, again, how do you know about the changes in the environment? Be vigilant. You should always be vigilant and keen in every details. Okay? One common and effective method for monitoring the environment is to read the business press, including Business Week, Fortune, and the Wall Street Journal. Ayaw ra sigig basa nga ng mga shared posts sa FB. If you have a business, ayaw gawas kung mag-share, ansana ka ng mga online sellers ba nga magsigig post sa ilang baligya, okay kay na, pero magsige ra kag basa chismis kinabuhi sa uban, is so unuseful. May pagbabasa kag business press, ma-enhance pa yung vocabulary. Okay? So, many organizations face a volatile environment in which change is nearly constant. So, the dramatic growth of the internet, in recent years probably represent the single most important environmental trend affecting organizations and their human resource practices. Well, companies have discovered that internet technology creates a high demand for workers who can deal effectively with email messages. Now, there is now the advantages of internet technology with respect to the efficiency and effectiveness of and of course the productivity of your employees in the workplace. Diversity in the workforce is given an in any organization, in any organized body. So when we say organized body, di siya na pwede og monochrome. So it is always a varied personality, different personality. Sometimes they clash, no? Mag-away-away, magbinugnuay, maglinibakay, o uban pang malangman. That is given because we come from different families, we come from different we grow up in a different environment. We are diverse, no, but we work in a common goal in an organization. An institution is composed of varied personalities, so it is a challenge for HR how to deal with them fairly. Usa dyan na sa pinaka-highlight nga challenge sa HR manager, how to deal with the diversity in a workplace, because sometimes you can never avoid those biases, no? Kay, we are all human and sometimes we commit mistakes. Naagad tayo like paborito, like there are these particular employees wherein kanang gahi bito ta masuko, and then there are also particular employees nga paspas ra kay ta masuko. So diha pa lamang there is now an injustice, no, on the part of the two employees. So that is really a very good highlight. Trending na dyan na dyan adyo. How do an HR treat the diversity in the workplace fairly? One of the most dramatic challenges with globalization nataha, but sa muka Shopee, sa globalization nataha. So one of the most dramatic challenges facing the Philippine firms today is how to compete against foreign firms. And that is very difficult now when it comes to quality of our product, no? So it is a very struggling, no, step to take in most firms in the Philippines, especially those who are yet starting. Hindi lang itong established na because they are already well known, diba? So for legislation, no, much of the growth in the HR function over the past 4 decades may be attributed to the crucial role in keeping the company out of trouble with the law, no? So the law on HR functions is also evolving, no? Naaman tayo gitawag og labor code. So all institutions must see to it that they are abiding, no, the law nga naa dito sa labor code, or else prepare for a lawsuit. Okay? So, usapod na, ang legislation is one of the reason why there are various changes and challenges in HR management. So, evolving work and family rules. No? The proportion of dual career families, no, which means that there is now a change in trend because in previous sa karaang panahon, no, only the father works, no, ang babae naragid na sa balay, but nowadays it is now a dual career, which means that both mother and father are working. So this I think, I'm not so sure, but I think there is now an existing law apportioning a family times on the rules and regulation to recognize the importance of family bonding. Marag na ni siya. Di lang kay ko sure, but I marag hearing ko something. Okay, manufacturing industry has dropped dramatically in terms of the percentage of employees who work in that sector. Kwanata skill shortages and the rise of the service sector. So we have two sector in the industries, the manufacturing and the service. Now, manufacturing industry has dropped. No, this the employees has dropped dramatically in terms of percentage of employees who work in manufacturing industry because most employees growth has taken place in the service industry. So between manufacturing and service, most of the employees, the skills of the employees are tend to be on the service industry and not in the manufacturing industry. So mo na say usapod na sa nahimong key challenges sa HR manager because kung daghan na pud kaayo nga skills pertaining to service, what will happen to the manufacturing industry? Diba? So usa na siya how what is the role of the HR manager on this particular situation? Okay. And then natural disaster also is a key challenges because natural disasters leave HR in suspended decisions whether to keep paying employees who are unreachable and unable to report to work because of the disaster, like paying for a variety of living expenses for displaced staffers in temporary living quarters, providing telecommunicating equipment for employees working from homes, awarding hazardous duty pay, hiring temporary employees to fill the labor void, and preventing the loss of key talent to competitors outside the disaster area. Mao jud ni very timely in a time labi na karon in pandemic, no? Mo bitaw na some of the companies has decided to close, okay, rather than they are paying for employees who are not or unable to report to work. So mo nang name-declare na laman sila og close na laman sila. Marag di man gud po di po mayong kag di nimo bayaran, especially for those who are on regular sila contract. You will be that would be an answerable to the law, no, kung dili nimo bayaran regular siya. Okay, so mo na usa ang natural disaster as a key challenge of the HR. So let's go to the organization aspect. Now, organizational challenges or concerns or problems internal to a firm. No, effective managers spot organizational issues and deal with them before they become major problems. One of the themes of this module is proactivity, which means the need for firms to take action before problems get out of hand. Now, when we say organization, as I have said before, this pertains to the problems that are within the firm. So, managers or HR managers should be proactive, no, rather than reactive. Kana bang before pa ang problema mo lala, you have to do something about it rather than ay pa ka mo act on it kung lala na siya nga problem. Okay? Because of the environmental challenges, organizations must adapt to survive within the environmental changes. For example, downsizing or organizational restructuring may be needed in order for the organizations to survive. Now, in time of pandemic, no, like kami tahay in the College of Maasin, so what we do is we only have 3 days of work, no, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, and TTH Saturday. So, relibo. That's what we call skeletal. Now, okay, this is a surviving strategy in order to survive during the pandemic. Kaya affected man jud ang financial flow of an organization when it comes to kanang disasters like this. So mo nang they have to adapt with the environmental changes. Now, 'di ba ang natural disaster is a part of the the environmental challenges. So, organizations should adapt to in to survive within the environmental changes. They could downsize, meaning to say manaktak. There are companies nga nanaktak. Daghan kog kailangan ang uli na laman sa maasin because wala sila trabaho kay nanaktak ang ilang company, no? So man sa siya mahitabo. Okay, and kataas ba ani ni Joy? Saram ta ni ka slide, my God. Okay, so for individual, now, human resources issues at the individual level address the decisions most pertinent to specific employees. Now, individual challenges almost always reflect what is happening in a larger organization. So, when we say individual, it doesn't always means na kana nga individual, one particular individual, as I have said before, no? Individual challenges almost always reflect what is happening in the larger organization. So, for example, technology affects individual productivity. Note that there is a two-way relationship between the organization and individual challenges. How the organization treats its individual will affect the organization when key employees leave for personal evolving families rules for leave to work for competitors, no? So mona sidya, it is very important for you to learn as an HR that you do not treat your employees as a different person. Instead, treat them as your family. But of course, you have to be again vigilant for room of abuses. Di man jud na nimo malikayan nga once a person is being pampered, mag-abusar mga jud na siya. So you have to be strict with your implementations, but you need to make sure that this individual would really feel that they belong to the organization. That is one thing to retain those key employees. Once a key employees feels that they belong to the organization, bisan pa og kanang harangan izag napo ka balde, muanha gud siya balde. Muanha gud na siya sa imong organization. That's because you have developed the loyalty among your employees by treating them as your family and not just someone who produce money for your company. Okay? Okay, so we're done with the key HR challenges and you have another assignment. So this is your assignment number 2. Daghan sige assignment month. Of course, you have your vacation for 3 weeks. My God. Your assignment number 2, for assignment number 2, you have 2 things to do. Letter A, discuss and elaborate. Again, discuss and elaborate the difference between manufacturing and service sector. Di ba na-mention na nato kanina? No? The drop in manufacturing sector. So you have to research on and discuss as well as elaborate the difference between manufacturing sector and the service sector. And then letter B, explain why human resource or the HR consider the drastic drop of employees working in manufacturing compared to service sector a challenge. Diba, I have mentioned before that one of the key challenges of HR is the drastic drop of employees working in manufacturing company or industry